Mike Tyson earned $430 million in the ring. He filed for bankruptcy owing $38 million. MC Hammer made $70 million. It was gone in 5 years. A staff of 200 people. A mansion that cost $42 million to build and sold for $5.3. Nicolas Cage built a $150 million fortune. 50 cars. 9 Rolls-Royces. A $20 million yacht. He ended up owing the IRS $14 million. And before you decide this is about celebrities with bad accountants, I need you to understand something. You're running the same patterns right now. The same behavioral architecture that turned $430 million into negative $38 million is operating inside your financial life at a smaller scale. You just have not hit the numbers yet. This is not about income. It is about behavior. And financial psychology has mapped exactly what that behavior looks like right before it fails. So here is the game. 7 signs. Keep a running count in your head of how many apply to you. 0 or 1, you're ahead of almost everyone you know. 4 or more, this is not a video. This is a diagnosis. One warning before we start. Sign 7 is the one nobody suspects, because it is the one most people are proud of. The research behind this is not ambiguous. A study published in Science by researchers from Harvard and Princeton found something they did not expect. Financial stress alone can reduce your cognitive performance by the equivalent of 10 to 13 IQ points. Not because you are less intelligent. Because your brain is tunneling. It is so consumed by immediate financial pressure that it literally cannot process long-term planning. If money decisions feel harder for you than for wealthy people, that is not a character flaw. That is a measured effect, and it reverses when the pressure does. Tom Corley spent 5 years tracking the daily habits of 233 wealthy individuals and 128 people living in poverty. 88% of the wealthy read for at least 30 minutes a day. 81% kept a to-do list. 79% networked at least 5 hours a month. Now notice what is missing from that list. Money. Not one of those habits costs $1, which means the gap between the two groups is not locked behind a paywall. It is behavioral. And anything behavioral can be copied. So let us start counting. 7 markers. The kind that show up in your bank statements, your credit card history, and the decisions you make every single Friday night. Sign 1. You treat your income as your wealth. Here is a pair of numbers from the Federal Reserve. The median American family earns about $70,000 a year. Their median net worth is about $193,000. Now, the top 10%. Their median net worth is almost $3.8 million. That gap is not an income gap. It is a conversion gap. The top 10% convert income into assets. The middle converts income into lifestyle. Same machine, different output. And if you think a bigger paycheck fixes this, sit with this number. PIMT's intelligence found that nearly 48% of Americans earning over $100,000 a year live paycheck to paycheck. 6 figures, and half of them need next Friday to arrive before they can cover this Friday. Meanwhile, the Ramsey Solutions study of over 10,000 millionaires found that only 31% of them ever averaged $100,000 a year. Most built wealth on ordinary incomes. So here is the test. When you picture being richer, do you picture earning more or owning more? If your answer was earning, that is sign 1. Count it. And if you just realized the difference between those two words, you already understand something most 6-figure earners do not. Sign 2. You optimize your spending instead of optimizing your assets. Follow $40,000 down 2 different roads. Road 1. You finance a new car. it loses roughly 20% of its value in the first year, 55% within 5 years. By the time you finish paying, the car is worth about $18,000. Road 2. The same $40,000 goes into a simple index fund tracking the S&P 500. That index has averaged around 10% a year over the long term. In 5 years, your $40,000 is worth roughly $64,000. Same money. One road makes you $22,000 poorer. The other makes you $24,000 richer. That is a $46,000 swing from a single decision, and it required zero financial genius. Just direction. The average American is choosing Road 1. The Bureau of Economic Analysis puts the personal savings rate at 3.5%. For every $100 earned, $3.50 survive. 94% of the millionaires in the Ramsey study live on less than they make. Not because they are cheap, because they know the difference between spending power and building power. If you know which road your last big purchase was on, you're already reading your own diagnosis. Sign 3. You leave free money on the table. This one is almost unbelievable, so stay with me. 1 in 4 American employees does not contribute enough to their retirement plan to capture the full employer match. Financial Engines estimated that this leaves $24 billion per year unclaimed. The typical person walking away from it loses $1,336 a year. With compounding, that is nearly $43,000 over 20 years. Per person. For filling out one form. And look at who is leaving it. 42% of workers earning under $40,000 miss the full match. Only 10% of those earning over $100,000 do. The people who need it most collect it least. Behavioral economists call this status quo bias, the tendency to leave everything exactly where it is, even when moving costs nothing and staying costs thousands. You would not leave $1,000 on the sidewalk, but you will leave it in an HR portal you never logged into. Same money, different frame. Here is the good news. Of all 7 signs, this is the cheapest one to erase. 1 login. 15 minutes. A guaranteed 100% return that no investor on earth can beat. Remember that for the end of this video. That is 3 signs. Where is your count? If you're at 0, do not relax yet. Because the next 4 are the ones the world has labeled as normal behavior. Good decisions. Responsible choices. They are not. They are the fingerprints of a pattern designed to look exactly like your own choice. Sign 4. You confuse financial activity with financial progress. The Federal Reserve found that 56% of families saved money in the prior year. That sounds healthy. But saving is not building. Saving is money standing still in a vault. Building is money out in the world, working, multiplying. And Gallup reports that 38% of Americans own 0 stock, no index funds, no ETFs, nothing that grows. Compare that to the millionaires. 8 out of 10 invested in their company retirement plan. 3 out of 4 invested outside of it as well. If your money sits in a savings account earning less than inflation, you are not being responsible. You are subsidizing your own decline. You're running in place and calling it a marathon. And here is what that difference compounds into. Among families aged 55 to 64, the average net worth is about $1.5 million. The typical family in that same group has $364,000. Same age, same economy, same job market. The distance between those 2 numbers is not luck. It is decades of savers on one side and builders on the other. Quick pause, because this matters. None of these signs mean you're stupid. People with graduate degrees carry every one of them. Financial behavior does not run on intelligence. It runs on identity, on defaults, on patterns you absorbed before you were old enough to question them. That is exactly why this is a diagnosis and not an insult. And it is why every sign on this list can be reversed. 2 more signs, then the strange one I warned you about. Sign 5. You absorb debt as a lifestyle feature. Total American household debt has reached $18.8 trillion. Credit cards alone, $1.28 trillion. Auto loans, $1.66 trillion. Behavioral economics has a name for why. Present bias. Richard Thaler's research shows the human brain systematically overvalues immediate reward and undervalues future cost. The purchase feels like a gain. The payment feels like a separate, unrelated loss. And that gap between the feeling and the math is where debt lives. But here is the distinction almost nobody makes. Mortgage debt is over $13 trillion of that total, and it is usually attached to something that appreciates. The credit cards and the auto loans are attached to things worth less every single day you own them. People who build wealth do not avoid debt. They avoid debt on things that go down. Say that sentence to yourself before your next financed purchase, and you have already extracted the entire value of this sign. Every time you finance something that loses value, you're not borrowing from a bank. You are borrowing from a future version of yourself. That version of you will have to earn the same money all over again, with interest, for something already worth less than what you paid. Sign 6. You upgrade your lifestyle every time your income increases. Now stop, because one number changes this entire conversation. Between 2019 and 2022, median net worth in the United States rose 37%. Median income rose 3%. Read that again. 37 against 3. The wealth of that period did not come from working harder or earning more. It came from owning things that went up. Homes, investments, assets. 66% of families own a home. For the typical homeowner, that single asset holds about $201,000 in net value. The majority of middle-class wealth sitting in one place. So if you're converting every raise, every bonus, every side income into a slightly better version of what you already have, picture this. You're on a treadmill. The belt is accelerating underneath you. Your legs move faster every year, and you stay in exactly the same place because your income climbs while your ownership stays at 0. And ownership is where the 37% went. 79% of the Ramsey millionaires received no inheritance. 93% said their wealth came from consistent behavior, not big salaries. They were not luckier than you. They just refused to let their spending grow at the speed of their earning. Sign 7. You have no wealth identity. This is the one I warned you about, the one people are proud of. Thomas Stanley spent decades studying American millionaires. Most drive ordinary cars, live in ordinary neighborhoods, wear ordinary clothes. Their wealth is invisible because their identity is not built on display. Now flip it. The average person builds identity around what can be seen: the car, the clothes, the address. Every upgrade tells the world, I am progressing. And every upgrade converts money that could appreciate into objects that depreciate. The applause is real. The wealth is not. The wealthy person does not resist buying the flashy car. They do not want it. Their scoreboard is internal. Net worth, cash flow, ownership. Numbers nobody else can see. And that invisibility is the entire point. One more number. Only 20% of all families own a business or business interest. Among the top 10%, nearly half do. Ownership is how the wealthy keep score. not salary, not display. Ownership. If your definition of success requires an audience, you will spend every dollar performing it. And a performed success is the most expensive product you will ever buy. So, what is your number? Whatever it is, stop counting and start dismantling. 3 moves. Measurable. This month. First, calculate your wealth ratio. Net worth divided by annual income. 5 minutes with a calculator. If the number is below 1, you're converting income into lifestyle faster than into wealth. That single number tells you more than any budget app. Second, capture every dollar of employer match. If you're in that 25%, this is the $1,336 a year I told you to remember. 1 login, the easiest win in personal finance. Third, track 1 month of spending and label every purchase, appreciating or depreciating. The ratio between those 2 columns is your financial direction, not your income, not your title. The ratio. Do those 3 things and you will know more about your real financial position than most people learn in a lifetime. 430 million, 70 million, 150 million. 3 people. Combined lifetime income over $650 million. Combined outcome: bankruptcy, forced liquidation, and years of digging out. 78% of NFL players hit financial distress within 5 years of retirement, despite earning millions. 1/3 of lottery winners eventually file for bankruptcy, not because the money ran out, because the behavior never changed. Give the same architecture more money, and it just builds a bigger collapse. Income is an event. It arrives, it feels like progress, and it leaves. Wealth is architecture. It is what stays, what compounds, what works for you while you sleep. And architecture is not built once. It is behavior, repeated until the structure holds weight. Drop your number in the comments. I read everyone. And tell me which sign hit hardest, because the one that hits hardest is the one that has been running the longest. But here is what I did not cover today. There is a pattern underneath all 7 of these signs. A single cognitive distortion that connects every one of them. And the reason you cannot see it is the exact reason it works. That is the next video. You counted your number. The only question left is whether it goes down before it goes up.